What's good? It's your boy Twiz. So Dead by Daylight is officially coming to Stadia, which I find very interesting. So I decided to visit the Dead by Daylight forums and see what they had to say. Of course, I expected them to shit on it, but it actually turned out to be more positive than I thought. You know what? I'll let the video speak for itself. Let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, I found you. Okay, so this is Huntress. She throws axes, by the way.
Holy shit, man. What the hell is that? Hey, you hear that? Listen.
Yeah, that's Huntress. Twiz!
Does anyone even own Stadia?
I really wish these companies did their research and looked into a service called OnLive.
I can assure you these companies have done way more research than you have. You see, OnLive didn't fail because of a technical limitation or that nobody liked it. OnLive failed for a completely different reason that I'm sure many people, including you, do not know. I don't want to harp on too much about it because it's more of a subject for another video, but trust me, OnLive, even at the time when the internet was much worse, didn't fail due to its technical limitations. It failed because of its leadership, which is, again, a subject for another video.
Personally, I want them to bring DBD to PS Now so I can play the console version on PC zany face.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember them saying that they wanted to bring it to the other platforms, but there were technical limitations and it was going to be a lot of work. I do think it's a possibility for the future as long as the game remains healthy and has players, which is one more reason why it's good to have Stadia players join you. Keeping the game alive and well will eventually make it crossplay with more systems. Really? You fucking missed your game? In your face, bitch!
Why are you teabagging? You fucking idiot!
Hey, you taught me that! I just learned from the best. I learned from you.
I teabagged you, not a nerd.
Never even heard of Stadia.
Not surprised by that. You see, there's a misconception. A lot of the hardcore gaming market, they believe that people don't play Stadia because it sucks or they just don't like it. The truth is, most people who care about video games barely even know what Stadia is. What this means is there's room for Stadia to grow, because once again, it's not people who tried it and don't like it or tried it or can't run it. Most people have never tried it, so only thing Stadia needs to do is to promote themselves and get people to try the service. Only then, when everybody knows what it is and everybody who wanted to give it a shot has given it a shot, only then can you really rate how good Stadia is compared to its competitors. So that begs the question, why is Stadia, why is Google not promoting this product? And I personally believe that they're waiting for all their features to be there. We still don't have crowd play. We still don't have crowd choice. We still don't have an actual real non-beta state share. I think Google's waiting until they have the games and all the features before they mass promote Stadia. I hope that's the strategy because it makes sense. You can only make a first impression once. I think Google wants to make the best first impression they can. I know a lot of people weren't happy with the launch of Stadia for several reasons, but notice that majority of people that aren't happy, they're not the majority of gamers. The majority of gamers, the majority of people that care about games don't even know what Stadia is. So even if you count the launch of Stadia as not being that well received, it doesn't matter in the large scheme of things.
We got cross progression for Stadia, but not Xbox or PS4, _Sue_.
It sounds to me like the Stadia build of the game is closer to the PC version, which makes sense.
Bets on how long Stadia lasts.
I believe one of their devs is quoted as saying Stadia is a 10-year project before it gets to where they want it to be. And also, if you keep in mind that they're not going out of their way for Stadia. Them building all these data centers for Stadia streaming are also the same data centers they use for YouTube as well as their other cloud services. So really, they're not going that far out of their way to support Stadia. Stadia is on the side of what they're already doing. Any benefit they make for Stadia also benefits all the rest of their projects. So realistically speaking, especially for a company with as much money as Google, they can keep Stadia going for quite a while. They have time to get it successful. They have time to get the customers, and really that's all that matters. Will they make mistakes? Have they already made mistakes? Yes and yes. But the question is, do they have the money to weather the storm and actually build a product or add on to the product to make it more enjoyable for people? And yes, just like Microsoft took 7 years to become profitable, Google has the time, money, and resources to get Stadia to where it needs to be.
I forgot it existed. I'd assume they're doing cross progression with that first because it's easier rather than actively prioritizing it.
Another person that didn't even know Stadia existed, or at least forgot. And yes, to answer your question, I do believe it's easier for them to do this for Stadia because Stadia seems to be based off the PC build. What you need to understand about the consoles, at least when it comes to the PlayStation and Xbox, and maybe even the Switch, they have to go through all sorts of regulations and testings, and they have to pay a fee whenever they put out an update. PC doesn't have that limitation, and I would assume that Stadia doesn't have that limitation either. So yes, it will be easier for them to change, modify, and add features to the Stadia and PC version than it will on the consoles. I do believe that is the primary reason why it isn't on the Xbox or PS4. But with that said, once they put out a handful of updates and changes, and once they're happy with the way the games function, I wouldn't be too surprised if they don't do one big update to the consoles as well. That's just the nature of the beast, and that's one of the benefits of PC. Also looks like a benefit of Stadia as well. So thank you for pointing that out.
She mooing you? Did you just get fucking mooed?
She's giving me sexy time.
Sony has always been tight on cross-progression and play. They're finally starting to ease up, but it's not a walk in the park to convince them to let your game have it. Microsoft is no excuse since they actively encourage cross-play and progression. IDRC, if the game is on Stadia, more people get to play the game, and who are we to be mad that more people get to play the game?
He makes a good point. Why be mad that more people get to play the game? Don't you want to keep your game and your community alive?
I forgot Stadia was a thing.
I am starting to see a pattern here. Now that I actually see this, I'm seeing this with my own eyes, I'm starting more and more to understand Google's strategy, especially when we were talking about the lack of promotion and lack of advertisement that Google was doing to promote Stadia. This is the best form of promotion and advertising. Instead of putting out big ads and trying to just vaguely tell people what it is, why not go to games that already have solid communities and then make those games cross-play and compatible with Stadia? Therefore, Stadia will be advertised by the players themselves. This is actually a genius strategy. I don't know if this is just a coincidence or this is really Google's master plan, but they did the same thing with ESO. I actually think this might be the best foot forward.
I feel like we're wasting time rolling out cross-progression to a system with almost zero player base.
Look, I know Stadia's player base is small compared to the established platforms, but I wouldn't call it almost zero, and I wouldn't call it not worth the time. Look, this is their job. Their job is to try to make money from their game. They feel that Stadia has a big enough player base to warrant it. What do you know about what is and isn't worth it? Apparently, these people who care about it and are putting their livelihood on the line, they do think it's worth it. So you might want to reevaluate why you feel the way you do, because they obviously think the player base is big enough to warrant the time to do so.
Cross-play and cross-progression are two different things. I am referring to progression, not cross-play.
Shit, man, let me get some popcorn.
They actually announced that you can upload your save file from one platform to the other then.
Oh, looks like they brought the receipts.
Yes, indeed. Switch and Stadia have cross-progression.
Okay, so cross-play and cross-progression is coming to the Switch as well. I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that when the Switch was first announced, a lot of third-party developers didn't want anything to do with it because they thought it was going to fail. And maybe Nintendo lowered the restrictions and limitations and made it easier for developers to do whatever they wanted with their games.
I mean, the only way you're gonna learn is... Uh-oh. Is that code for...
Now that's just sexy AF.
Now, I know these two weren't specifically talking only about Stadia. They were also referring to the Switch and the crossplay when they were talking about how much they liked it. But notice how we started off with just bashing on Stadia, and now we're coming to accept it, and now we're starting to like the crossplay and the changes. This is good. We're going from negative to positive. Now, I want to add on one more part to this because I know a lot of people are excited for these changes for the Switch with the crossplay and cross progression, but I want to say one more thing. If you're thinking about buying Dead by Daylight for the Switch because of these changes, I'm going to ask you, if you're doing it just for convenience purposes, why not get it for Stadia? If you have the internet to handle it, seriously, why not get it for Stadia? You can play it on your phone and play it on the go. You can play it on your TV or your browser anywhere you want. It has the same conveniences as a Switch, but even more so. And plus, you're not relying on the hardware. If you buy it for the Switch and you lose access to your Switch, or your Switch dies, or the Switch is outdated, you're basically not going to be able to play the game again. If you buy it for Stadia, you will have it forever and be able to play it anywhere. It's something serious to consider. Again, if you don't have the internet for Stadia, I got you. But if you do, you might want to consider it.
It's probably a smart decision from BHVR. Not many have Stadia, so devs can control the progression easier compared to PS4 etc. with thousands of players. Once they are sure it works with Stadia, they can move on to the big boys like PS4 and Xbox.
I only think you're halfway right in this. It's easier to make updates and changes to the PC version, and it looks like it's the same with Stadia. I know for a fact on Xbox and PlayStation, they don't like it when you constantly update and patch your games. In fact, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you can look this up, but I believe they also charge a fee every time developers try to update the games to basically encourage them to do everything right the first time and not really update the games. But that backfires on the player base. Not only do you not get much needed updates, but it also slows down how much your game can evolve and change over time. Hence, why we're getting it first on Stadia and PC, and you guys are getting it last. If you're lucky, it might not even come to you at all.
Yeah, I mean, we can leave.
You're probably right. Hell, maybe even the Stadia port is just a ruse to test crossplay.
I wouldn't call it a ruse, but whatever, man.
With a game like DBD and all its DLCs, cross-progression gets kinda sticky. Each company gets money when you buy a product through their platform, but what happens when you buy a bunch of DLC on Steam where it's oftentimes cheaper? Should you get that stuff on Xbox with Microsoft not seeing a dime?
This is one of the reasons why Sony was really gung-ho against crossplay, since they had the majority of the player base. They feared that adding crossplay would encourage people to play games on other systems and buy stuff on other systems. So you are right, from the company standpoint, yeah, it's probably not good for each individual company if that's the only measurement you're looking at it. But look at it like this as well. Crossplay means more players to play with. More players to play with means more people will be playing the game overall. How many times have you stopped playing a game because you couldn't find a match or had nobody to play with? So although there will be sales happening on PlayStation that will carry over Xbox, or PC that will carry over Switch, it doesn't change the fact that each individual platform will have more people playing on it. So there will be more money made overall for each individual platform.
I'm wondering if they were under contractual obligation to develop for it before they knew it'd flop. If not, probably a waste of resources TBH.
What do you consider a flop? Where do you see it flopping? Every change in the future looks good for Stadia. More people, better internet, 5G, even satellite Elon Musk style internet. Where do you see it flopping? Where do you see it's not worth the time? Hell, Stadia was damn near perfect when it first launched, and it's even better today than it was then. Where is this flop? Are you referring to the small player base? It is a new platform. It has to get new players, but I can tell you this, there's more people playing Stadia today than there were when it first came out. Where is the flop?
I'm gonna be honest here. I had no idea it existed until they announced DBD would be compatible with it.
Here we go again. We got one more. Somebody else who didn't even know Stadia was a thing. I'm telling you, this form of advertising is better than the traditional route. Crossplay is Stadia's killer feature. When they mix with people from established platforms, that will do the advertising for the platform in and of itself.
Twiz, it's all to you.
I don't look forward to playing with people using the Stadia personally unless they've fixed their latency issues. I welcome the other platforms, however. With cross-progression, I'm more so curious if cosmetic purchases and or Excel purchases transfer as well.
There are no latency issues at Stadia. Anyone who has latency issues just doesn't have a good internet connection. It happens every once in a while, but if you don't have a good internet connection, you're playing an online game, you're gonna have latency issues anyway. But one thing I find very fascinating, see, I was told that the killer is the one who hosts the servers. So the quality of your connection to the server is the quality of your connection to the killer. Well, see, on Stadia, the host, the killer, will be the Google Stadia servers, which are very stable, and most people have a very good connection to them. So in fact, playing with Stadia players is actually gonna be better than playing with many people who are not on Stadia. You should actually be looking forward to this because you're gonna get more stable servers.
Gets me pretty angry knowing they spent resources, time, devs and coders into this instead of fixing their game. Here's a $30 cosmetic.
The brand new players coming from Stadia and all the attention the game will be getting because it's coming to Stadia will probably generate more money and resources and encourage them to keep fixing and upgrading the game. This is good for everyone, including the established base.
Only 11.6 thousand active Stadia players.
And where exactly you're getting those numbers from, because that seems wrong, and even if it's not, it doesn't change the fact that Stadia's base is growing. It is getting more players today than it had yesterday, and it will continue to grow. So once again, even with your numbers being wrong, or let's assume your numbers are right, it's irrelevant because Stadia is growing.
Lol, probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Well, you're doing a pretty good run.
Damn it, no, he got me.
Oh, sorry, pulled him off the hook.
I was working on that generator, you motherfucker.
You tried.
People are quick to dismiss Stadia, but especially with cross-play, it's a phenomenal platform. ESO is a great example. You can get the basic edition on Stadia for $10, $20, but right now everyone gets $10 off first purchase, and it's basically the PC version of the game. You can play it on any TV with a Chromecast, any computer with a browser, and most Android devices. The Division 2 is the same way. There is literally no cost of entry. You don't need a few $100 console or $1,000 PC. If Stadia goes under, the entitlements are account linked so you could play on PC with your full account. That said, would I personally invest a lot of time or money into a game that doesn't have cross-play progression? Not just yet, but it's definitely the future. There is something magical about being able to play ESO in this case, on any TV in my house, switch to my phone when I'm watching TV, and on my work laptop when I have downtime. I'd honestly go so far as to say the portability makes it my preferred platform, despite having Xbox One X and PS4 and a gaming PC. I can't wait for DBD to come to it. The only thing I'm bummed about is my DBD account is on Xbox, so I'll have to rebuy stuff and get all my perks again. Also regarding the latency, looking at ESO as an example, while you are adding latency because it's streamed, the actual game had less latency on Stadia versus running locally based on some users' analysis. Hopefully this holds true for DBD as well. Anyway, just hoping to shed some light amidst the constant childish, OMG why Stadia with its 6 players.
That dude is spitting straight facts. Wow, man, this is really turning around. Now it's people besides just me talking positive about Stadia. This is a big sign. Remember when Stadia first came out, or when it was brand new, or even a couple months ago, how the only thing you would hear on forums and in the media is just people talking shit about Stadia. The Stadia player base is getting big enough to where there's actually people like, hey, hold on now, we hear what you're saying, but you guys are wrong. The player base is growing. The positive reviews are coming out. People are changing their perception on Stadia. It might be a little bit slow, but it's definitely changing. Yeah, a little bit lower, a little bit to the left. There it is. Yeah, that's a sweet spot right there.
Most people bashing Stadia have never tried it, and many are defensive because they've paid into expensive hardware systems, consoles, PCs, that are somewhat, though not entirely and never entirely, obsoleted by Stadia. It's actually a fantastic system, and it has totally replaced my other forms of play. All I need is my lightweight tablet and Wi-Fi or a mobile hotspot and I'm good to go. If anyone wants to give it a shot, Stadia is free without Pro, but you can also get a free 1-month trial of Pro and like 20 free games with Pro. Give it a shot. Also, if you do have some periodic stutter or something, try troubleshooting guides, especially if you're on Wi-Fi or using a Mac. Macs don't have good Wi-Fi drivers or good video decoding. If you have any questions or need help, check out Reddit.com/Stadia and feel free to ask anything.
Damn, another one. Man, I'm telling you, the Stadia community is finally getting to the point where they can defend themselves. I like this. I want to touch on one point he brought up about if you have Wi-Fi issues or internet connection. See, this is another thing. A lot of people that reviewed Stadia and tried it for like 1 hour, their reviews were not fairly accurate because any little issues they had, they counted it as a negative against Stadia instead of just troubleshooting it. I can tell you this right now. Assuming you have the internet connection to handle it, Stadia works a lot better out of the box than PC gaming does. Because on PC gaming, sometimes you have to update your video card to make sure your drivers are up to date, and there's all sorts of things that conflict. Stadia doesn't have those issues. Usually, everyone's #1 issue with Stadia is it gets up to go in their browser settings and turn on or off hardware acceleration. Then it works fine.
What is a Stadia?
Oh man, wow.
This forum name seems biased, and consequently suggests that there is some selection bias in the people who commented. I am not a gamer, and only own a Chromebook and no gaming console. I started using Stadia a few months ago, and it has a surprisingly large user base and community. Playing games casually was above and beyond my expectations. There's little to no lag, I play on my large TV, etc. I suspect that you all aren't the target audience for Stadia. I'm not sure why you're so passionate about disliking it. In its target audience of non-gamers with no hardware like me, it's amazing. Maybe it's not for you, just like buying a dedicated having console is not for me. Cheers.
I see where he's coming from, but I never really liked the argument that you are not the target audience for Stadia. The target audience for Stadia is actually anybody who has the internet connection to handle it and wants to try it. That's the target audience. It's not necessarily people who don't have a console, although it appeals more to people who don't have a console. Stadia is for anybody. Like me, I have all the systems, PC, Xbox, Switch, PlayStation, I have everything, but I'm also a tech enthusiast and I like seeing video games grow and evolve. So for me, I find Stadia very appealing. Stadia, again, appeals to anybody with the internet connection to handle it and who wants to try it, not just people who don't have consoles. But other than that, I get what he's saying. Whoa, let me correct myself on that. I actually don't have an Xbox, but I have a PC, which is basically the same thing, because I can play all the Xbox exclusives. So let me clarify that. Yeah.
If he dies, he dies.
Hello Stadia user, just dropping in. It works where here except US. It's the year 2020. Stadia actually works. Do your research. Thinking face. Guys, come on.
You know, for people saying the Stadia player base is small, it's starting to look like almost half of the people coming to this forum are from Stadia. So the Stadia player base is either really small, but also insanely active, or it's actually a lot bigger than you think it is, because you guys are starting to get overrun by people on this supposedly small platform. That is something to think about, guys.
Oh man, what a positive community you have here. Can't wait to join you all once the game comes to Stadia. It's gonna be fun. Throwing kisses.
Indeed, it will be fun. And you know, I'll be streaming the game pretty regular when it comes out. I want everybody to be there, even non-Stadia users. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, subscribe to your boy Twiz, and come hang out and game with us, man. Everybody's welcome, regardless of what platform they play on. Isn't it beautiful?
12,000 people worldwide. That's fairly shocking. Probably cause Google has screwed up the delivery since day one. I was going to give it a shot until I saw reviews. Then I saw how Google were acting as parent with content creators on YouTube and completely refused to get Stadia. It is a trust-based console and Google are not a trustworthy company. They could pull the plug on it at any minute and you'd lose everything. Even games you buy there, you don't own. You basically borrow them and they are completely tied to the service 100%. I've been seeing a few Stadia commercials lately and no one is interested. It is like the modern Atari Jaguar. I've got amazing internet and I've tried streaming games on PS Now and thought it sucked.
No, correction. You and your echo chamber, you guys are not interested. Look at all this new blood coming to the forum in support of Stadia. You say nobody's interested, but half the people here are talking about it like they like it. You need to wake up and open your eyes. Just because you don't like Stadia, which again, seems like it's some sort of bias on your part or stuff that you heard from people who had a bias, doesn't mean everybody else doesn't like it. My advice to you, my advice to everyone, hey, you can try Stadia right now for a month. Test it for yourself. Don't compare it to OnLive. Don't compare it to PlayStation Now. Try it right now for free for 1 month and make your own decision based off of that. Why be led by somebody else? Why be a sheep? Try it.
Oh no. Oh my god.
Not true, because you shouldn't trust any company, not even devs, but okay, we'll see. And 12k users. Stop making up numbers, dude. You don't own your games on Steam either, so that logic is out the window, and YouTube has nothing to do with Stadia. Stop reaching, and everyone who has tried GFN compared to PS Now knows PS Now sucks. GFN and Stadia work flawlessly. What happened to Microsoft OS on Nokia and Zune Music Player? Check out the subreddit, be more open-minded and do your research, dude. Cool, good day to you. Can't wait until this game comes out.
Now, he did sound a little bit too much on the attack there, but the spirit of what he said was true. Think for yourself and try it. And yes, GeForce Now and Stadia works way better than PS Now does. And I've tried PS Now as well. I can tell you right now, Stadia feels like a real console replacement. PS Now just felt like something you played while you couldn't get on your consoles.
Me too. Stadia players walking into the house. What up? LMAOOOOO.
You gotta represent your platform, homie.
Can't wait to play in competitive DBD Stadia tourneys. $16 trillion as first place reward and key to the city.
Alright, I don't really know what he's talking about. Is somebody really setting up money tournaments? Hey man, I might be a part of that. Hold up, let me see what's going on here. Alright, that's it, man. Wow, I am really surprised by how many people are in there talking positive about Stadia. More and more every day I'm starting to look, and if I'm not seeing stuff positive about Stadia, at least the stuff written about Stadia isn't completely shitting on it, which I find amazing. So I want to touch on one more thing before we get out of here, and something I find very interesting. A few months ago, I was thinking, what game would be perfect for Stadia? And I was thinking, man, Dead by Daylight would be great, but I thought it would never come to the platform. Dead by Daylight is the type of game that has a solid community. Like, it's not the biggest community, it doesn't have the most players, but it has people who play it every day. There have people who play it like it's an MMO. And I was like, man, if a game like that would come to Stadia, that would really turn it around. Fast forward a few months and here we are. Not only is Dead by Daylight coming to Stadia, but it's coming with full crossplay and full progression. And it's introducing a long-awaited feature, crowd play. That is amazing. My mind is blown by that. So with that said, I'm your boy Twiz. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, and subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for supporting my channel. And remember, one more time, don't forget to follow my homeboy, Wholesome Dad TV, aka Casual Jake. I'll put a link to his channel in the description below. Laters, y'all.
Just don't. He might have whispers. Why is he doing this?
He's gotta have whispers.
Why would he be doing this? So just stay still.
Is he trolling? I think he's trolling. He sees me.
No, he's
Whispers
gotta
is a
have
perk
whispers. It's gotta
where
be
like he can
whispers.
find people, but I think he could just be bad. Like we don't have to move.